Hello, and welcome to the first edition of what I hope to be an annual tradition, the weekly Shonen Jump Awards. These are my subjective awards that I will bestow upon the series, chapters, and characters that we have grown to love in 2024's issues of Weekly Shonen Jump. I'm counting everything from January 1st, 2024 to the issue that just came out a couple days ago. I know that Jump itself operates on a calendar where December actually counts as the first month of next year, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be sticking with a good old Gregorian calendar. As another caveat, I'm going to just say that I only really developed this passion, or maybe you could say obsession, with kind of systemizing and cataloging every aspect of Weekly Shonen Jump around halfway through the year. It wasn't until June that I truly got into the swing of it. So all of my awards are going to be kind of biased towards the latter half of the year. That's just how it is. Very subjective awards. You'll see some perennial favorites are going to probably dominate. But I thought this was a fun idea, and I'd be very curious what the winners would be if you were in charge of the ceremony. But you're not. I am. But I did want to give some space for what kind of the general internet opinions of these series are, at least in the West, where these series are kind of standing in readers' minds, as just sort of a reference point for my own tastes. So, unfortunately, we're not able to kind of get people's opinions on the series just for the year. So this is going to be kind of biased towards like the legacy of the entire series. But I found it was kind of interesting to compile this data anyways, so we can maybe make some assumptions and comparisons out of it. So on my anime list, One Piece crushes everything else at the top by a fairly wide margin. Then Hunter x Hunter, Jujutsu Kaisen, Blue Box, Sakamoto Days. Very happy to see this rising up the ranks in what I perceive to be kind of the most normie site and definitely the most anime oriented site. So the fact that this is so high, not even having an anime yet, same with Akane Banashi, is very, very promising to me. Akane Banashi beating out My Hero Academia by 1/100th of a point is kind of crazy. Kagurabachi, Ruri Dragon, and the Yozakura family, which is a series that if you've been watching my videos, I'm not the hugest fan of. But does actually quite well on all three of these lists. Then I looked at manga updates, which I think is kind of the most hardcore site in terms of the people on there typically read a lot of manga, and you can see the average scores are quite a bit lower. So I think people rate a lot more harshly there. But One Piece and HXH still crush, not as definitively as on MAL. And then we see Hiro Aka in third, a big leap up from my anime list, which is quite interesting. Followed by Sakamoto Days, ranking very highly, JJK and Akane, kind of the same series rearranged. One notable inclusion is Undead Unluck appearing in the top 10, which makes me really happy as a huge fan of this series, as someone who feels like it's very, very underrated and underappreciated. Then good old manga decks, where it's quite interesting because a lot of these series you can't actually read on manga decks because they're being officially simulpubbed on the Viz site. They're quite vigilant about taking down sites like manga decks hosting the chapters. So this is not just people who read and then review on manga decks. These are people reviewing that go out of their way to review it on manga decks, having read it probably on the Viz site or something else. And here we can see kind of some genre tastes emerging that are quite different than the other sites, with Blue Box and Ruri Dragon both rating way higher than they do on either other list. One Piece, of course, still on top with an absolutely massive 9.5. But again, it's not like you can read One Piece on manga decks, so if you're going out of your way to review it on that site, you're probably a big fan. Other things to call out: Ichi the Witch appearing on here, which is very exciting, beating out Yozakura family by, again, 0.01 point. Same with Roboco beating out JJK. This I find really, really funny, and it makes me happy to see Roboco so high up. Okay, Enough of other people's opinions. Who cares about those? Now it is time to talk about my awards, starting with the Best New Series award. Any series that had its debut in 2024 is eligible. And this is just kind of looking at my opinion on the series as a whole so far, which is a little difficult to judge apples to apples since the most recent of the series, Sid Craft, has only like 6 chapters so far versus ones that started near the beginning of the year, like Chojo, which is up to almost the triple-digit chapter count, I believe? No, that's not true. Up to almost 50 chapter count, I think, in the mid-40s. So yes, Chojo, a gag manga about a psychic policeman. Dear Anemone, a very unique, kind of grotesque and intricately drawn series about people exploring the Galapagos Islands and experiencing rapid mutation. Astro Royale by the creator of Tokyo Revengers, a fairly straightforward battle shonen where people receive powers from wishing upon a strange comet. Kyokoto Necromance, a very stylistic exorcist manga. This and Dear Anemone already got canned. They did not make it the full year. Same with Psych House, a charming slice of life series. The Yokai Buster Murakami also met its end, but lasted quite a bit longer than a lot of these other ones. A strange gag series about battling yokai by dissing them. The Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi, a series that feels like it's picking up steam, especially after getting an endorsement by Oda. It sounds very generic. I mean, Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi, can you even imagine a title more generic? But there's a lot of very unique, very stylistic elements that I'm really enjoying. Hima-ten, a very silly harem rom-com, because Jump always needs a few of those. Ichi the Witch, a dazzlingly gorgeous new series about the first ever male witch hunting magical creatures called magics in a fantasy world. The only fantasy world in Jump besides One Piece. Shinobi Undercover, kind of a mix of slice of life and ninja battles, and maybe a bit of a rom-com element emerging. Haku Taku, a series about 2 kids that decide to team up to become indie game developers. And Sid Craft Love is a Mystery by the creator of We Can't Study, a new harem rom-com that operates in the mode of the classic mystery thrillers. Okay, so of these 12 series, which I'm very happy it was exactly 12 because I couldn't fit any more on this slide, we have in third place The Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi. I'm really enjoying this one. It's got such a nice blend of comedy, of kind of this loose slapstick art style, of some really cool battle scenes at times. I think they're handling the world building in a very interesting way. The characters are super charming and lovable. It really goes to show that, like, Battle Shonen, it just has such a solid formula that as long as you execute on what people expect of it in a great, unique way, it doesn't have to be so mind-blowingly new in its premise. So, really enjoying that. At number 2, we have Psych House. I just loved how this series reminded me a lot of Yotsuba, one of my all-time favorite manga, and it's just detail and excitement of very everyday, very low-stakes situations. Truly about finding the joy in the everyday, exploring it with a novelty where Yotsuba kind of focuses on the perspective of a child and how that sort of enriches the world with novelty and freshness and excitement. Here they have a sort of a similar perspective, but using the characters' low-key superpowers. Really lovely, charming series. And at number 1, we have Ichi the Witch. Number 1, Ichi the Witch. Really, really, very, very impressed by this series. It's blowing me away so far. Just the ambition in the world building, in the gigantic fantasy world that they've laid out before us. The gorgeous, jaw-dropping art, beautifully displayed in all sorts of 2-page spreads. And just the excitement I feel for things to continue to escalate and progress. Really, really good stuff. Okay. Next, we have a similar award for the best debut chapter. So this isn't exactly the same as the best new series, because sometimes series can have really dazzling, amazing debut cover chapters and then kind of let you down. Or the reverse. Things with somewhat unassuming starts can turn out to be quite fantastic. But here I just want to look at that debut chapter, which is often an extended 50 to 60 pages. Which one got me most excited? Which one did I feel did the best job establishing the series and getting me hooked and making me want to read further? We have the first chapter of Ichi the Witch, simply called Ichi, where he encounters the king magic that no other witch has been able to defeat so far. The Yokai Buster Murakami's debut chapter, Here Comes the Yokai Buster, where they encounter a kappa, which I think is just an excellent representation of this silly, idiosyncratic style that the series has. Really lays out the powers of Murakami and his scathing insults, and had a lot of good laughs, too. The first chapter of Hakutaku, which does a great job establishing our main characters, introducing the concept of indie games in a way that makes you really understand, the challenges and yet the opportunities and how they're going to mesh with this guy's self-perception and his social life and all of the challenges he faces, accumulating in this really awesome scene where his brain gets super overstimulated by the prospect of his game actually being played by his peers. Then we have the first chapter of Psych House Want to Move In, a perfect low-stakes adventure to kind of establish the tone, charm, and fun of the series. It really moved me that they managed to get something into Weekly Shonen Jump where the big action climax is simply this guy becoming huge and gently setting down a car. Then we have the first chapter of Dear Anemone, that although the series I think had a lot of very rough elements, a lot of stumbling blocks, a lot of confusing choices, it certainly got off on a strong foot with this creepy, unsettling, action-packed, scary, desperate situation as they are beset by monsters on the Galapagos Isles. And finally, the debut chapter of the Super Psychic Policeman Chojo, where Chojo himself is introduced as this bizarre, detested man who creeps people out with his psychic powers, and we get to see him and his new partner, Ponfer, try to solve their first case to some entertaining success. All right, of these 6, what will be our big winner? I really like doing this, moving the picture around. I hope it's not, nauseating. I think it's very funny. All right, at number 3, we have the first chapter of Yokai Buster Murakami. I just found this so funny. It was a series I was kind of dreading because, again, it just seemed so generic and uninteresting, but this revealed that the genre was totally not what I expected and gave me a lot of good laughs. At number 2, we have the first chapter of Hakutaku, which really inspired me as someone who has kind of a simmering flame deep within me, some embers of passion that makes me want to make games myself. Seeing these kids plunge headfirst into it really inspired me, and I thought it was super well conveyed in the chapter's action. And at number 1, we have, once again, Ichi the Witch. I think this first chapter just dazzled me. I really did not have super high expectations going into the series, but from almost the first page, I realized this is someone who has a great sense of what makes manga work. This is someone who is really going to push the limits of what can be achieved in the medium artistically and in terms of plots and in terms of action and suspense. I was endeared to the characters right away, and I just felt like this was the first steps into a grand adventure that I was really excited to join them on. All right, next we have the Most Tragic Axing Award. And here I'm referring to any series that met an untimely end and was canceled out of the creator's control. Now, to some extent, I'm just speculating. Like, our first nominee is Cypher Academy, which you can see made it to 7 volumes. So it didn't necessarily, run for a shorter duration than series creators intended to. But judging the sort of hurriedness of the ending and the number of plot points that were established and then not paid off, and kind of seeing the ending follow a downward trajectory in the table of contents and overall popularity, I'm going to classify this as getting the axe, because it does seem like it wasn't their game plan to end the series this way. Similarly, we have Green Green Greens, a golf manga that debuted in 2023 and met its end earlier this year, quite abruptly, with a very generic "and his golfing journey continues" ending. Psych House, which we've talked about a bit before, despite its best interest to generate a bit more of a fan base by shifting genres a little bit, introducing some more dramatic elements, some more long running arcs, met a very untimely and unfortunate end. Mama Yu Yu, a fantasy series from last year that certainly had a lot of ambitions in its world building, had set up a structure towards the final boss that had many sub bosses, sub arcs, and sub fights, and then had a very, very rushed and sudden ending that I'm sure was not their intent. I think, though, there was like a bonus chapter released in the tankobons that I'll have to go and read at some point. But we're not going to count that here because we're just looking at what appeared in the actual magazines of Weekly Shonen Jump. And finally, the Yokai Buster Murakami, which I felt had set into a nice groove. They gave it the permanently last spot in the TOC, which sounds like a condemnation, but in fact is sort of a way for them to show their support by saying, look, you're not going to be judged on the same axes of popularity as other series. We want you to just kind of cultivate an audience of probably younger readers and be always easy to find for somebody who wants to just read a silly gag comedy. It's always going to be there right at the end of the magazine. Despite that, I think it probably didn't perform as well as they like in tankobon sales, and maybe still just didn't hit some popularity threshold, and wrapped itself up quite quickly with a whole lot of plot points left undiscovered. So my criteria here isn't just like how much I liked the series, of course that's a factor as well, but how much untapped potential it felt like the series had. So in third place we have Cypher Academy, which might actually be my favorite of these 5 series overall, but I think had an opportunity at least to have, several substantial arcs and a lot of development of the main character. I'm sure it still had a lot more story to tell, but not as tragic and axing as number 2, Green Green Greens, which felt like just the onset of a sports series. We barely got through the first arcs of our character learning to play golf. We didn't even get to the phase where he's like competitive and really getting into the meat of golf strategy and golf technique. So that's a real shame that it was sort of nipped in the bud before we could really explore the characters in this game of golf. And at number 1, we have Psych House. I just thought this was such a cool series. It was such a breath of fresh air in Jump as this total slice of life, this just sort of charming, relaxing series that again reminded me a lot of Yotsuba, which is high praise for me. I feel like it just wasn't given a chance to cultivate an audience. They axed it far too quickly before it could really kind of develop its own strength and develop a fandom. And it's a real shame because there's nothing else like this in Jump. There isn't much like this in manga in general. And I really hope this creator can land on their feet and come up with something great that can run for a long time in probably a different magazine. Okay. Next, we have the Best Finale Award. Now, when I conceived this, I thought there would be a lot more entrants. I thought Yozakura Family and Undead Unluck would probably wrap up by the end of the year. And then there was another couple series, too, that I thought might be heading into their finales. But in terms of series that deliberately ended and were certainly given the space for like a finale arc and a wrap up and everything, we only have two, but they're a big two, and I'm sure you all know what they are: Jujutsu Kaisen and Boku no Hero Academia. It feels kind of silly to give an award here, given that it's just which is my favorite of these two. But that's how I made it. So we're gonna give number two to BNHA, which I thought was a fine ending, but it certainly just whelmed me. There wasn't anything really surprising. The sentimentality was nice, but not that profound. And it just sort of executed on all the things I would have predicted like 10 years ago if you asked me when the series started, if you asked me how it was going to end. I probably could have pretty accurately summarized the last few chapters. So then at number one, we have JJK, which I kind of feel similarly about. You know, it was the sort of ending I expected. Even the sort of elements of surprise within it, I expected. The lead up to it had some kind of strangeness that I enjoyed. I know that it was an ending that frustrated a lot of people, that kind of made some moves people didn't expect, while also skipping over some things that people were sure were going to be depicted. But that's the nature of a long running series ending. You can't make everybody happy, and everyone has years and years of expectations that get piled up going into it. So for my money, I thought it was very good enough. All right. Next, we have the Best Arc of the Year award. This one is like kind of difficult to compare apples to apples about, given that some series have arcs that span multiple years. Other series have arcs that last just a couple chapters. With some series, it's very nebulous when an arc begins or ends. But it's my award show, so we're going to do our best anyways. Our nominees are the promotional exam of Akane's senpai Maikeru and Akane Banashi. Just a very fantastic Rakugo performance in a series that I absolutely adore, where my favorite scenes are the Rakugo performances. This might be my favorite in the entire series thus far. In Sakamoto Days, we have the JAA jail adventure, where Shin infiltrates the jail to find the JAA's fortune teller. This is a currently ongoing arc that I've just really been enjoying. In The Elusive Samurai, we have the arc around Akie's final battle. Just in a series again where the battle series are kind of the meat and potatoes. I think this is one of the best they've ever done, full of action and deception and twists and escalation, and some very powerful emotional moments near the end. And on Dead Unluck, we have the ongoing final arc of the final speed run, which I have very strong but very mixed feelings about. This is certainly a plot development motivated by Jump editors saying, hey, you got to wrap this up in X amount of time, and then the author compressing God knows how many years of chapters into this speedrun blitz that we are currently experiencing. But let me tell you, it's one hell of a ride. The density of plot events and character moments and emotional beats is so intense, it really is almost like nothing else I've ever read. Then we have the Egghead Island arc in One Piece, which ran from, like 2022 sometime, all the way into its grand finale about halfway through this year. I could have also included Elbaf, which is just kind of getting started, but I thought I'd focus on Egghead because that was much more substantially the arc that One Piece had this year. And finally, the ongoing arc in Blue Box of Chinatsu's dad visiting, and this strange arraignment where main character Taiki is going to live with him and gets to know him, and just his character development I thought was so compelling and so interesting and so relatable and human. while also including some really excellent pivotal basketball action in Shinatsu's final Winter Cup, her final bid to make it to nationals, which I think is just wonderfully depicted. Just great, gritty sports action, interwoven with a lot of character development and introspection. Really, really great stuff. I think represents everything I love about this series. Okay. And the winners are, at third place, we have the final speedrun in Undead Unluck. As I said, it is very frustrating to see so many great ideas and so many amazing developments compressed in this way. But I think they've managed to channel that into something that is just pure lightning and truly is a unique and compelling experience. At number 2, we have the promotional exam arc. As I said, this is just, I think, one of the strongest Rakugo sequences in the series so far, which in turn I think are the strongest plot moments in general. I think just the integration of an entire kind of character arc in a nutshell throughout his performance as it segues from comedy to tragedy, the way it integrates his relationship with Akane's dad, which is this kind of like secret undercurrent throughout the entire series, you know. It's sort of a major premise at the start of the series, but then recedes into the background. And it's just so stirring, so haunting when you realize the effect of Akane's father's absence on Akane's senpai, on the world of Rakugo, and how that reverberates through his intent and his art form. You know, it's not just so simple of, oh, the story he's telling is a metaphor for his relationship with Akane's father. It's just this profound recognition of what Rakugo is and what these Rakugo lineages are within the story itself, but within the quality of the presentation. And then just this whole parallel narrative of him being judged by the harshest critics and the preeminent stars of the world of Rakugo, some begrudgingly acknowledging his talent. It's so satisfying. It's so triumphant and cathartic, so tense at times as well, with just this sweet, syrupy sadness of nostalgia and loss. Great stuff. And then at number 1, we got Egghead. As I said before, these are very subjective, biased results, and let me tell you, One Piece is going to be winning a lot of things. You may find it more interesting to just judge second place as the winner and One Piece as sort of a cheater first place position. It's not even a fair comparison, man. I've been reading One Piece since I was a little kid. It's my favorite manga of all time. I salivate thinking of new chapters. I'm just endlessly in love with the series. And Egghead was a phenomenal arc. It brought to bear so many different plot elements. It represented such a leap in the power scaling of the series in a way that I found so compelling and so exciting to see unprecedentedly powerful characters squaring off against one another, bringing back the giants, finally introducing us to Vegapunk, a much rumored and much teased character. Just this kind of conflation of the rustic Viking pirate giants and the technological mastery of Egghead as a whole. Just so many things going on in this arc that I loved. Kuma's backstory, Bonnie's backstory, these moments of great sadness, but then also moments of just jaw-dropping, chaotic action, all accumulating an amazing, mind-blowing finale that speaks to the most fundamental mysteries of the series as a whole. It's good shit. And then Elbaf has been even better so far, but we'll likely talk about that next year. Okay. Moving then to the Best Chapter of the Year award. I limited myself to 1 chapter per series. And again, I focused mostly on the second half of the year where I could refer to my notes and the previous videos I'd made. So there may be some like huge bangers in the first half of the year that I just kind of forgot about. But I think this is still a very, very strong lineup. We have chapter 153 of Blue Box, where Taiki, amid a intense badminton match, reflects on his history with the sport and comes to really realize, in a really profound and beautiful moment, how much his mom has supported him. And what follows is this extremely beautiful montage of memories of his mother, intercut with her cheering him on at this badminton game. And it's kind of like you're seeing through both of their eyes simultaneously this very profound moment where you see how much she's done for him through Taiki's eyes and how much he appreciates that, how grateful he feels, how much he realizes the depth of her support. But then you also see the pride in her eyes that she truly recognizes how much he's grown and how much she's been able to help him develop into this adult, this badminton player, this uh, star, this rising star in the high school badminton scene. It's a really, really beautiful moment that I think just represents everything great about this series. So sentimental, so beautiful, so full of just emotional intelligence. Really highlighting the fact that if you recognize the things people have done for you in your life, if you recognize the sacrifices people make for you, it really leads to a richer, more expansive life. It leads to greater capabilities for you in any of your passions. Great stuff. Uh, Chapter 120 of Akane Banashi called Walk the Path. This is before another fantastic set of Rakugo performances as Akane's teacher Shiguma does his annual performance in Shinjuku. Before that, they decide to explore the streets of Shinjuku a little bit, where Akane realizes just the breadth and depth of her master's passions. They go record shopping, they go eating, they go to clothing stores. He talks to everybody in the neighborhood, and they're all so excited for his performance. And Akane truly recognizes and appreciates how much he's brought Rakugo to this community. Really, really lovely stuff. Even though I said, yeah, the Rakugo performances are the highlights for me, this chapter is still an even higher watermark. Just that kind of urban bliss, truly appreciating just the richness and diversity and complexity of an urban setting of all these stores with all their history, of all the different hobbies and passions represented in every block of every street. Really just amazing stuff. So compelling, so exciting, with great little moments of humor and sentimentality. Really represents everything I love about this series. The chapter 198 of Me and Roboco, titled Mahjong and Roboco, which is largely an extended parody of the famous Mahjong series Akage. Akagi? Yeah, Akagi. Akagi, by my favorite mangaka of all time, Fukumoto. What really gets me about this chapter is that it feels like it really shouldn't exist. Weekly Shonen Jump is a magazine oriented mostly at young teens, and Roboco, I'd say, skews even younger in the demographic, whereas Akagi is a series that started running in 1992. It's much older than the vast majority of Weekly Shonen Jump readers. It's been over for years now. I really don't understand how many people they thought would get this reference to begin with. And then, moreover, beyond the references it makes, it just plunges into a full-on Mahjong parody, taking all of the kind of plot beats and tropes and strategic discussion and analysis of an actual Mahjong series like Akagi, but presenting it with all of the goofiness and gags and kind of strange running iconography of the Roboco series. when she starts drawing knee tiles, because she has those crazy muscular knees. I was like, okay, I understand. This is brilliant. This is the smartest thing I've read in Jump this year. Then we have chapter 220 of Undead Unluck. Now, come on. I don't want to just give out excessive spoilers for this series, but basically Undead Unluck had been teasing and awaiting and anticipating one gigantic triumphant moment for years at this point, and in this chapter it hit. And I gotta say, it lived up to everything I had hoped, everything I had been looking forward to. Just this insane barrage of action and catharsis and reunion, all while still adhering to this deranged speedrun policy, so the pacing of it is just totally out of control. A one-of-one moment in a one-of-one series, I think, very much encapsulating the spirit of Undead Unluck in the last year. Then we have one of the first chapters in the Elbaf arc in One Piece, even though they had technically been on the island for a little bit, and this is the chapter where they truly see and appreciate the fact that they are in Elbaf, the land of giants. And I hope readers as well truly appreciate how wondrous this is. This is a setting within One Piece that had been foreshadowed as far back as chapter 110. Even somewhat foreshadowed earlier than that, because one of Usopp's lies when they meet him is that he commands an army of giants, or he befriends giants or something. And then later they meet some giants, and the giants tell them about their homeland of Elbaf. And now, 1,000 chapters later, almost 20 years later, we arrive in Elbaf itself. And just the... I was a little kid reading about Elbaf and going, ooh, I wonder if they're going to go to Elbaf someday. And now they're in Elbaf. I don't know. I don't know if I can truly appreciate or truly convey to you such that you can appreciate how crazy that feels. How mind-blowing that is for me. And then the fact is that it's living up to my expectations. It's living up to the hype. This chapter is just so full of fantastical, adventurous moments. It's given a traditional One Piece chapter title, Adventure in Blank, that every new arc gets, as just sort of the official kickoff of that grand adventure. Just moments like riding up on a rainbow, the integration of actual Nordic mythology, but with this charming and exciting original take on it. Just these really charming little excerpts of giant life, some resolutions of minor plot lines and kind of the intro to the arc that then sort of give us momentum and excitement for the new challenges and conflicts that will arise. I cannot overstate how much I love this chapter. And a new series appearing on this slide, Ichi the Witch, in chapter 13, I think hit its highest watermark yet. Not the most mind-blowing chapter in terms of plot consequence, not one that is loaded up with twists and sudden developments and stuff, although those are aplenty in this series. But one that I think really exemplifies just what a good battle shonen is, and how good arc writing in this genre works, and how Ichi the Witch is putting its own spin on it, its own unique construction of the formula, which really made me excited and optimistic for the future of the series. So here they are setting up a kind of three-way challenge where Ichi and one of these very established elite witches, Togais, are both competing to catch the mushroom magic, which is wreaking havoc on this village. There's just so many great moments in this chapter. It felt like they really understood how to set up an arc like this, how to do character establishment, how to give you just the perfect kind of expectations for everything. Turns out that arc went in a totally different direction, but oh well. This moment, it just felt like everything clicked, and I was like, ooh, they know what they're doing. Okay, so of these 6 fantastic chapters, which are the fantastic estest? At number 3, we have Don't Eat Ice Cream from Blue Box. Oh, just that mom stuff, you know? Maybe if you don't have the sort of mommy issues I have, it won't hit the same, but for me, it brings a tear to my eye to see that sort of gratefulness and appreciation. And number 2, we have Walk the Path in Akane Banashi. Just a really phenomenal exploration of an urban Tokyo environment. Take me there. What a wonderful place that city is. And then at number 1, I'm sure this is no surprise, but it's Adventure in Elbaf, chapter 1132 of One Piece. And if you want to hear me praise that chapter to the extent that I believe it deserves, including crying, just look up my reaction video. All right. So I will finish off this video by awarding Series of the Year, and you're probably already guessing what's going to get it, and you are correct. But first I thought I would look at the scores that I give out in my monthly videos, which actually scored the highest this year, which was consistently getting the highest marks in those videos. So again, this only goes back to April, and then the full magazine, it only goes back to June. But we talked about 29 series across all of those videos and gave them ratings. So what I did was then take those and convert them into numerical grade, you know, each letter grade corresponding to an increasing number. Then I averaged those out, and then I ordered those averages, and this is what we got. Last place, Nue's Exorcist. Not a surprise if you watch those videos. Then probably the most controversial thing I will put in this entire video, Hunter x Hunter at number 28. Just really, really not enjoying this latest arc. It didn't run for long this year. It only appeared in 3 videos. But the average grade it got in those videos was a C. Not so good. Mission Yozakura Family, average grade of C+. Same with Dear Anemone. Shinobi Undercover, getting a consistent B- in the 4 videos it's appeared in. Hima-ten a little better with a consistent B. Same with Astro Royale and Kill Blue. Sidcraft Love is a Mystery, the newest series in Jump, so far has managed a B+ average. As did the short-lived, but I think actually quite solid, I think underrated series Kyokuto Necromance. Then our beloved Psychic Policeman Shoujo with a B+, Hakutaku A-. Some other A-, the much-hyped Kagurabachi, and the gone too soon goofy Murakami. The long-running BNHA, in its final year, managed an A- average for me, as did the seldom seen Ruri Dragon. In the A tier, we have Green Green Greens and the Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi. These are ordered within these letter grades, by the way. I sorted them to a higher level of precision based on the numerical averages, and then I just rounded it to the closest letter grade, rounding up if it was halfway in between. Elusive Samurai also made an A, same with JJK in its final year. Blue Box, unsurprisingly, an A average, same with me and Roboco, getting into the top 10. At 7, we have Psych House, the first A+ average, truly gone too soon, same with Ichi the Witch, which I hope will run for a long time. Double Witch Action with the hilarious Witch Watch, which I'm surprised didn't get any other nominations, but I ended up skimping out on some of the categories I'd planned because it was just kind of too hard to like track down good examples this year. But yeah, like funniest moment, if I had the wherewithal and time to try to put together a good list of nominees for that, I think Witch Watch would have easily made the grade. Undead Unluck at number 4, also getting an A+ average. Sakamoto Days, our first S-tier series, getting an S- average. Then Akane with an S average, and One Piece also getting an S average. Probably no surprises on this list if you've watched those videos. And my overall average of everything in those videos was an A minus, which I think is pretty good. Like, I have a hard time with ratings. I always kind of like second guess myself, and then I worry that, oh, maybe my ratings are getting inflated over time. That I feel like I gotta like kind of escalate past last ratings, or maybe that I'm overcompensating and being too harsh when giving out grades. But an A minus average, I'm happy with that. That kind of I think feels right for my feelings of the magazine as a whole. Okay, now let's talk about the Series of the Year award. There's probably going to be no surprises here. At number 3, we actually have Undead Unluck. I just think what an amazing, explosive sort of final year for it. I'm sure it'll wrap up pretty early in January. A lot of things I can complain about, a lot of things I can feel frustrated about with the super accelerated pacing at the end, but so many amazing moments too, so many great kind of final resolutions, so many things brought back, so many cool arcs before this final speedrun too, you know, the final recruitment of the last few negators. Great stuff. At number 2, we obviously have Akane Banashi. I praise this series to the highest heavens every time I talk about it, and I still feel like I haven't said enough. Just a truly, truly beautiful work of manga that just so happens to appear in Jump. We're all the better for it. It feels like something that has the appeal of Joshi manga, that has the appeal of slice of life interest-based manga, that operates in so many different modes, but somehow resolves itself into a wonderful shonen series. And at number 1, probably to no one's surprise, is One Piece. I don't want to say, oh, One Piece would have won every single year since it started airing had I been doing these awards since 1997. I genuinely don't think that's true. I think there's years where other stuff could have beaten out One Piece. But this was not one of those years. One Piece was really cooking. Both Egghead and Elbaf have been fantastic arcs. Elbaf especially has just really just brought me to such a childlike joy in every chapter. And then all of the intra arc stuff, you know, going around the world and seeing how things are changing and the ramifications of the events of Egghead, has, you know, those are sometimes the most exciting parts of the entire series, and it really delivered this year on that front as well. Yeah, those are my Shonen Jump awards. As I said, I had a lot of other ideas for categories, like funniest moment, best character, best fight, saddest moment, stuff like that. And I wish I kind of had the time to work on this more and come up with good entries for that. But like I said, my obsessive note taking only extends like halfway through the year. So it's kind of like hard to really kind of construct these things. And B, I just have so many other videos I want to make right now. Like, the Keys to YouTube channel is just going to be an endless barrage of videos. And by endless, I mean it will end around January 6th. But until then, yeah, I really want to just be working on so many different videos. I just didn't have time to put this one to the level that I had initially hoped to. But please look forward to next year. Next year, I would like to expand the categories quite a bit and maybe come up with some funny production value stuff. So yeah, look forward to that. Thank you for joining me. And read One Piece and read Akane. They're so great. Okay, bye-bye.